Welcome. Friends, we're gathered here today in the place that Joy called her home church. We're grateful for her life, we're tender with our grief, and we're held together by the memories that shaped us. Whether church has been familiar to you or not, whether you have been comfortable coming here today or not, I want to tell you personally, you belong here. Just as your presence here today would be making Joy smile. This is our time to honor Joy, our time to tell our truth about our love for her, and our time to offer one another comfort and strength.
Join with me as we sing one of the wonderful promises that Jesus gives us through his life and resurrection. And Joy is with Jesus right now in the resurrection of the Spirit. So please join me as we sing the hymn of promise. In the bough there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds a mystery, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. In our hand is our beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death a resurrection, at the last a victory, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see.
I want to take a moment as the pastor here at New Leaf to welcome each and every one of you here. We are so glad to have you here and to have the opportunity to honor and remember Joy. I have heard of her name countless times as I have been getting accustomed and settled into this place, but it has all been with fondness and good energy, we'll say, with everything everyone's had to tell me about Joy. This morning I wanted to share a reading from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. As it is customary to read Psalm 23 at a funeral, I didn't know if that fully embodied joy. And from the stories I heard of her, there is a passage out of the New Testament in the book of Galatians that I think sums her up a little bit better. It says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law." Sometimes reading the scriptures bring us comfort, and sometimes they bring us confusion. But I felt that that was one that would sum up joy very nicely. Whenever I'm asked to do a funeral, I always find myself asking the same question. What is the legacy that this person is leaving behind? See, each of us make our mark on this world in some way or another, and I think it's safe to say Joy is no exception to that. Her mark may have been made quietly, behind the scenes at times, but the reality is she has left her mark on this world. And it is obvious to me that Joy's legacy is a legacy of faithful care of others and a tremendously strong faith. Now, as many of you know, I did not have the privilege of getting to know Joy personally. I didn't get to experience her firsthand the way many of you have. And so I ask for your forgiveness and grace, because most of this has been from stories that I've gotten to hear about her. But I do have to share a small, interesting one. Even though I didn't get to meet her personally, I have gotten to experience the impact of her on this world. See, back in 2012, when I was attending licensing school and beginning my journey in ministry, I made a friend while I was at school. I became fast friends with another young mother who was on her journey to become a pastor. She and I may or may not have gotten into trouble from time to time. We may or may not have been ornery and caused some of the professors a little stress, but we've become supporters of one another in ministry over the years. And I knew that attending licensing school and the additional education was a challenge for her. And I knew that she had mentioned to me having some people from her church support her along the way. Now, the church that she had mentioned I had never heard of, the town she had mentioned I had never heard of, and I had no concept of where this place called Conneaut was. I thought it was sweet that a church member would help her with books and things. And fast forward 13 years, and now I'm here. I'm serving in the church that my friend came from, only to find out that the woman I get to honor today was her benefactor, that it was Joy that supported and encouraged my friend so many years ago. And when I found that out, that touched me that day. And it just reminded me that as much as we like to think we have independent little lives as we spin around the sun on this rock, there is so much that is woven together. This amazing tapestry of our lives that intersect and cross in ways that we can't foresee or understand or anticipate. As I spoke with Joy's daughter Beth, I got to know more about the woman Joy was. And I feel very confident that I would have absolutely loved her. Beth shared stories with me and wove a picture of a woman that was loving and compassionate, had an eye for the ones who needed a bit more love or care. And I'd like to share some of the words Beth shared with me, because as I read what Beth wrote about her mother, it made me wish that I had gotten to know her more. So I hope some of this resonates with each of you who did have the privilege of knowing her. Beth wrote, Joy lived her faith the way she lived everything else, quietly, steadily, and with a heart that noticed who needed a little extra care. She supported Samara Renee Jenkins, a young mother studying to become a pastor, paying for her books semester after semester. She invited students from troubled homes to sit at her table for a home-cooked meal and a sense of belonging. She had a special place in her heart for girls who needed encouragement in math and science. I wish I would have known her in school. Cheering them on and reminding them that their minds were strong and their futures were wide open. Many people simply called her Mom. She poured her energy into her church, I know that one, serving on committees, cooking for family nights, supporting the New Leaf Building Project, and showing up every Sunday. She loved learning. The disciple Bible studies lit her up, and when we cleaned out her apartment, we found pages of handwritten notes from her time studying the scriptures. Her creativity blossomed in retirement. She threw herself into quilt making, stitching beauty and comfort into every piece, and began learning how to paint, exploring both watercolor and acrylics, with the curiosity of someone who always wanted to discover something new. At her senior living community in Portland, she started a quilting class and volunteered at the preschool across the street. The last 3 years of her life, she moved into assisted living and was known as the grandmother or grandma for the staff. She taught one staff person how to sew and gave her a sewing machine so that she could start her own sewing business. She sewed aprons and quilts for the staff. One staff member had just ripped her pants before entering Joy's apartment. And Joy said, "Take your pants off so I can sew them." And she did right there. Her sister came to live on the same assisted living floor the last year and a half of her life as she declined cognitively. If Joy left to travel to Joseph, Oregon, she would leave notes for Gay, almost like lesson plans, with her schedule for the day and who would be there to take care of her. She came from a long line of strong and gifted women. Her grandmother, Nina, rebuilt her life after a divorce left her with 2 small children and no income. Nina became a teacher, remarried, raised more children, and eventually wrote a weekly column for the Edinburgh newspaper. That same strength ran in Joy's veins, and it appears in her children as well. Joy knew heartache and kept going. She suffered the unimaginable loss of her beloved son Mark when he was in his early 50s. And after 62 years of marriage, she and Joe went separate ways. And in her 80s, an age when most people are slowing down, Joy packed up her life, moved to Portland, Oregon, and started again. She lived for years with a blood disease that she wasn't supposed to outlive, and eventually with congestive heart failure that finally took her life. But until her last breath, she remained resilient. She loved life fiercely. She lived right up to the edges of her odyssey, squeezing connection out of every moment she had. It was just 2 years ago that she traveled to Europe with her granddaughter Hannah and her grandson and love Jaron to take a cruise down the Danube River. Her disease nor her walker stopped her from experiencing life to its fullest. Her love for her grandchildren was one of the great themes of her life. When her grandsons were little, she made sure that they got to go to vacation Bible school, driving to Ashtabula to pick them up and bringing them back to Conneaut. She took them to Wallowa Lake Camp year after year, creating memories that became part of who they are. And after Mark died, she packed home-cooked meals for her grandsons to take back to college. One more way of saying, "I'm with you." She never missed a band concert, a sports game, or even a soapbox derby. In her everyday life around town, Joy was known as a caring supporter here in Conneaut. What was supposed to be a quick trip to the grocery store, she sounds like my mother on this one, almost always took an hour because she seemed to meet everyone, listening, catching up, offering encouragement. She often called herself an introvert, but no one who saw her interacting with strangers would have believed it. She struck up conversations everywhere she went and collected people's stories like treasures. On airplanes, she almost always stepped off the flight knowing someone's life story and often sharing a piece of hers. At Creative Millwork, she helped to start a no-interest loan program for employees going through financial difficulties. And at home every night, we gathered around the dinner table to talk about current events. That's where she taught us how to think, how to listen, and how to have real conversations. And as a mother, she did something quite revolutionary. She supported her daughter's dreams. In a family shaped by a deeply patriarchal culture where girls were expected to marry young and stay close to home, Joy whispered a different truth. You can do more. You can be more. And she lived that encouragement into every corner of our lives. Are there others that would like to share some of their experiences with Joy? I thought so. Come on up.
My name is Sarah, and I'm Joy's granddaughter. And I have some words about my grandmother. One of my earliest memories of my Grandma Joy was in a part of the world that she loved the most, her kitchen. I was young, too little to reach the countertop, so I was propped up on top of it. Tasked with the job of mixing peanut butter and powdered sugar together with my little hands until it formed a dough. We then spent the afternoon rolling the dough into little balls and dipping them in chocolate. She called them Buckeyes. She explained that the chocolate-covered balls of delight were a special Ohio treat and were an homage not only to the college football team, but to the nut that grew on the state tree of Ohio, the Buckeye. That was my grandma, never missing an opportunity to teach, to pass down history. That day, as I downed as many little peanut butter and chocolate-covered candies as I could fit in my tummy, she also passed down her love of chocolate and peanut butter, her favorite combination. Growing up in a certified granola, greens, and public broadcasting only household in Portland, Oregon, going to Grandma's was a treat that I always looked forward to. Her home was a grandchild's dream. Plentiful sweets in arm's reach, gallons of ice cream in the freezer, steaks and mashed potatoes for dinner, cable TV with any show I could dream up. The word no was rarely spoken. The possibilities seemed endless. That was my grandma. She delighted in spoiling her grandkids. Then I got older, and life no longer centered around candy and Disney Channel, but visits with Grandma still centered around the kitchen. She brought out the family cookbook and taught me how to make scalloped potatoes, Christmas bread, and the perfect pie crust. Her secret is substituting vodka for the water, but don't tell her I told you that. I cherished this time with her, not only because she was a great cook, but because when she cooked the family recipes, the family history came to life. Still in her teacher mode, she dove into stories and life lessons, what it was like growing up on her family chicken hatchery, the hardworking and honest virtues her parents instilled in her, and the strong-willed, stubborn women who went generations back into our family. She was a staunch feminist and emphasized that doing well in school and getting an education was a way to honor my ancestors who worked hard and sacrificed to give us a comfortable life. It was a way to honor the women who never had that choice in my family, but most importantly, a way to honor myself, because no one could take my education from me. That was my grandma, a historian, and strongly grounded in the principles passed down by her family. How lucky was I to be gifted a sense of legacy, a part of a continuing family story. And then there was the grandma that the world knew. Whenever we went out together, if she had been there before, she knew the people there. And not only that, they were delighted to see her. Her love knew no bounds. She was a grandma to everyone and anyone who needed a grandma in the moment. I remember this past summer, we traveled to Ohio, but Grandma's bag didn't make it on the flight. I was tasked to pick it up from the airport. And when I walked into the baggage claim office and told them I was Joy's granddaughter, everyone in the room lit up, told me how much they loved my grandmother, how lovely and kind she was, and insisted to wish her the best for them. I wondered how in such little time she had connected with and won over a room full of people who had by all accounts one of the hardest jobs in the world, tracking down lost baggage for weary travelers at their wits' end. But that was my grandma, always kind and big-hearted with anyone she encountered, even at her own inconvenience. To be her granddaughter was to be entourage to a mini celebrity. If you could ask my grandma about her legacy, she would probably start listing off her love for her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, their accomplishments, the success of the company that she started with my grandfather, and maybe even the beautiful quilts that she lovingly handcrafted and have become family heirlooms. All of those are incredible gifts, but she probably wouldn't realize that the greatest legacy that she left behind for me was the gift of belonging. Through the family histories that gave me a sense of place in the world, through the friendly smiles on people's faces when we walked in a room together, and for her omnipresent and unconditional love, always having a place for me at her kitchen counter, leaving with a full stomach and a fuller heart. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian. I'm one of Joy's 5 grandsons, 2 granddaughters. All of us get to leave behind a legacy. With the choices we make, the way we treat people, and the values that we live by, they slowly shape what that legacy looks like. My grandma is leaving behind a great legacy. You can see it by the people who are in this room today, in the lives that they lead, and in the way that they behave and treat others. Her influence is still working through this family today and through the company she helped start. Like many, a large portion of my memories of my grandma are from my childhood. I always saw her as that steady presence in our family, like the glue that held everybody together. Though I wouldn't call her an organized person in terms of things like sorting her mail or paying her bills and stuff like that, she was always great at organizing family get-togethers for holidays and events as a family. She knew it was important to be together. Sorry. She had a clear moral compass that everyone else seemed to rest on. You knew where she stood and what she stood for, especially if you were friends with her on Facebook. One of the clearest ways I saw her influence was through my dad, Mark, who passed away in 2013. She raised him and her daughters to be incredibly empathetic people who cared deeply about doing the right thing and about how other people were treated. That part of my dad, that empathy, I believe came from her. And I feel like a lot of that has been passed down to myself and my brothers and my cousins as well. My grandma helped build Creative Millwork with my grandpa. And from everything I've heard and seen, she was a big part of shaping the way the company treated its people, with respect and dignity. It was not just about running the business, it was about taking care of people who showed up there every day. That's something that I think about now a lot in my own role there. When I try to make sure our employees are treated fairly and like human beings, I feel like I'm carrying forward something she helped start, both in our family and in the company. In the last years of her life, she lived in Oregon, and we didn't really see each other that much, but we would talk on the phone a few times a year for birthdays, holidays, stuff like that, and we'd also video chat during COVID, and she was surprisingly good with technology despite her age. But every time we talked, we'd pick right up where we left off as if no time had passed at all. Even with that distance, the foundation she laid in our family and in the company is still present in my life. So today I'm grateful for the values she passed on and for the legacy of kindness, respect, and empathy she created. We love you, Grandma, and thank you for everything you gave our family. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Yvonne. I am a cousin, and I'm one of 9 as girls. And when when Beth mentioned that when I came in this morning, I thought, oh my gosh, that's kind of a wonderful connection and the family connection. So I'm sitting watching the pictures up here and seeing so many people that I knew and know. And thinking of the generation of our great-grandmother, Nina, and then her children who were Joy and my mom's parents' moms, and then now our cousins, and now the rest of you that I have yet to really meet. But my life took me afar, so coming home and now being at family funerals during this last 2 years for this generation has been enlightening, but also to come in and see the colors that my mom and her siblings would wear, and Joy and her family would wear, the pastel blues and lavenders and pale pinks. And my mom said recently, she said, oh, I love pastels. And she was not able to be here today, but her heart is here. So I just love the generational flow of presence today, to have the sense of my aunts here who were cousins, and just the tremendous family relationship that I think I probably have taken for granted, but to know how significant it is. And just the little stories when I was young, when Beth and Marie and Mark were young, visiting their home was a special thing. We didn't do it often, but when we would go, it was a real treat to go and see these kids that were our age, my siblings with me. And then my mom tells a story about one of us or two of us going out to play and ending up knocking on the neighbor's door thinking it was Beth and Marie's home to come back in. Somehow it was just free to play in the neighborhood, and that was something new and different. But just the family flow that's present today, and visually and spiritually, I just am thankful for that. And the connections of crafting, the quilting, the crocheting, the painting, the ministry, all of those things that are flowing together and present with all of you. And thank you for allowing me to share with you today.
Good morning. I'm Megan, Matthew's wife, Joy's third grandson. In the last few weeks, as I've thought about Grandma Joy, every memory brings me back to a feeling of warmth, which is fitting considering the first time I met her, I was stepping into the Sarasota heat to accompany Matthew for a week-long stay in the K&K Retirement Mobile Home Park, or as we endearingly call it, the J&J. There's a certain intimacy when you spend a full week with someone the first time you meet them, and this set the foundation for our connection. I would continue to find myself in one-to-one conversations with Joy, discussing everything from our preferred methods for cooking and baking to sharing intricate parts of our soul. As many of you spoke about today, Joy had a passion for family history, which she was eager to share with me, a recent aspirant for becoming an Estock. However, thanks to our special connection, instead of receiving the gathered research of the family's genealogy, I received a history lesson through the perspective of her heart. I learned that her daughters were two unique souls she found fascinating, crediting them for their determination to stay true to who they are as a source of her own inspiration and energy to accomplish her dreams. I learned her daughter-in-law was a beacon of strength and unwavering devotion. To Joy, the perfect example of the way a mother would want her son to be loved. Her 5 grandsons, never ceasing to amaze her in their dedication to do whatever it took for the family to be proud, especially as they navigated the start of their own lives despite watching their fathers come too soon to an end. I learned of her granddaughters beaming with beauty and intelligence, both carrying a confidence paired with bravery that she envied and adored. Joy's brother and sister, while miles apart, that distance was not felt in her heart. Bound together forever by memories shared with the from the beginning of their story as siblings and proud to watch on as they each wrote their own. As wonderful as it was to hear Joy speak with such admiration for her family, nothing matched the realization I quickly came to. When getting to know each of these individuals on my own, it became clear to me that they actually attributed a lot of who they were to her. These wonderful things she thought of them made possible because of the many times she was there to love, support, listen, encourage, guide, and teach. To witness a woman who nurtured her family to become a direct reflection of her heart has been one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. A reading from Proverbs 31, a passage in Scripture that I believe captures the essence of who Joy was as a sister, wife, mother, grandmother, and friend. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hands, she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let the works bring her praise at the city gate.
Today we're here to celebrate my Grandma Joy, the life of a woman whose name truly captured her spirit. I was gifted with the middle name Joy, and that's something I've always been proud of. But now, more than ever, I feel deeply honored to carry her name. My grandma and I had a bond that's hard to explain, a soul-level connection. We just understood each other. She saw so much of herself in me, and I saw so much of myself in her, the good, the bad, and the ugly. There was a deep recognition between us, like we were cut from the same cloth. Some of my favorite memories are the simplest ones, like playing games together for hours, piecing together puzzles, or watching movies on the Hallmark Channel. And then there are the unforgettable ones, like the time we were traveling in Europe together and suddenly found ourselves separated. She ended up on a long-distance train with all of our luggage, while I stood helplessly on the platform as the doors slid shut between us, her on one side, looking completely unbothered, almost amused, and me on the other side, panicked, realizing that my elderly grandmother, the person I was supposed to be looking after, was now heading off into another country without a working phone, and with all of our luggage that she couldn't carry. In the end, it all worked out, thanks to the kindness of strangers, and it turned into a memory we'd later laugh about together. The last night I had with her is a memory I will also carry forever. Before any of us knew she would be gone the next day, I said my goodbyes. I was leaving the country for 6 weeks, And at her age, and given that she was in the hospital, you just never know. So I treated it like it might be our last time together. I told her how much I loved her, how important she is to me, how incredible of a woman she is. I cried in her arms and told her that I hoped I'd get to see her at Christmas. She held me and told me that she would love to see me at Christmas and that she wanted to hear about my travels to Antarctica, something she was very proud of me for doing. But she said that no matter what happened, if I didn't get to see her again in the physical realm, that she would always be with me. I curled up in the hospital bed beside her, cherishing every minute. I didn't expect that in less than 12 hours, we'd be getting a phone call saying she had been moved to the ICU and that a short time after that, she would be gone. Having that final night to be in her arms, to rub her back, to tell her everything she meant to me, to let myself be completely vulnerable with her, was a profound gift. We can love people with our whole hearts, but we don't always put that love into words. So I'd encourage everyone here to tell the people you love what they mean to you. Be open with them, be honest with them, let them feel the depth of your love while you still can. As Grandma Joy said that night, she will always be with me. She will be with me in my name, in my heart, in my travels, and in the way I live my life. And I will carry her love with me everywhere I go. Thank you.
I'm Denise Nine-Wheeler. I grew up with Beth, and I think I was at her house more than I was at my own house. I was the middle child of 4 kids, so, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I always remember every time I was there, Joy would always ask me a lot of questions about my life, and I wasn't really used to that because, you kind of blend into the rest of the family. And I just really kind of considered her a second mom to me. I had a wonderful mom. They were very much alike. And I was at Beth's house all the time. I was at camp. I was water skiing with them. And it was wonderful. She was a wonderful person and was truly interested in what was going on in your life. And she still called me Niecy up to even a couple years ago when Beth would bring her home. That was my nickname. And so I was always Niecy to her. So I feel like she was one of my moms. I loved her.
Hi, my name's Jeff. I'm her son-in-law through Beth, her daughter. Mother-in-laws and son-in-laws. They don't always see eye to eye. I'm from the East Coast, and sarcastic and sometimes rude people who enjoy spicy food and sometimes swearing. But and Joy enjoyed food that I couldn't imagine eating. Watched television shows I couldn't imagine watching. Playing games, it's not something really I enjoy, nor puzzles for that matter. But she was patient as Job with me. Just listening, I just realized I never said I love you. She was the patron saint of the underdog. and her daughters are, and her granddaughters are. Whether it was students in her class from broken families, needing a second chance, or the recent immigrant cleaning her apartment who expressed an interest in sewing, or the newly arrived AFS student trying to find their way in a new community and needing a place to call home. She was there with a welcome and a smile. If you look at these pictures that Marie so lovingly put together, you see that smile in every picture frame. And she generously supported these people with her heart and with her resources. Despite being of Scottish descent, she was never reluctant to give money to people who needed it, even though she sometimes wouldn't pay the bill at dining when we went out to eat. She was a persistent person. She didn't want to die. She loved life. She loved the time with her family, even the hardships that she had to go through with her husband. But it was a woman who wanted to milk everything she could out of the life, and she did. She lived a full life. We say that about people. But she embodied that. When she left us that night, I went back to her body and whispered in her ear, and I said, "Thank you. I love you. For without you, I wouldn't have Beth or my daughters, who are the most important thing in my life." So as we were preparing to come here from Oregon, I thought it would be appropriate to bring a puzzle. And it was giving her such joy last night to see people assembling that puzzle. And when we think about a puzzle, those thousands of pieces, its life is much the same. There's the edges, there's the middle piece, there's the pieces that don't always seem to fit the way we expect, and some pieces surprise us, some challenge us, some feel lost for a while, until the moment they fall perfectly into place. So Joy, your puzzle is complete now. We love you.
Morning. I'm Chris, the fourth grandson. Just a short couple words. One of the things I will admire about Grandma Joy forever was her consistency. She was always the same person. She was a rock. And as we get older, her grandchildren, we start to understand how difficult that is to be consistent with all of the ups and downs of adult life. It's almost impossible to be the same person every single day. That's one thing that I will always remember her for. Just a quick story about her consistency, and it was brought up in somebody else's talk. I was 22 years old. I drove down to the K&K with a friend of mine for spring break, stayed in the trailer park. We had driven 19 straight hours, starting at 2 a.m. our time, getting there some god-awful hour in Florida. Grandpa Joe had urged us to go to the Hooters that was right next door, immediately upon arrival. Begrudgingly, Grandma let us go and do that as we were about passed out, but we had to go. She was a person who would never express her disapproval or displeasure, but as I grew older, I knew her tell. It was a slow look down and maybe a slight head shake. She would always do that. She would never tell you she disagreed with you, but she would always do that when, and you knew she did. She did that when we got there and Grandpa Joe took us to Hooters. But on that same trip, my friend and I, two 22-year-old college students looking to go to bars at night, she was a night owl in every sense of the word. We only stayed there for 4 or 5 days. Every night we would come back at 3 a.m. from some debauchery, and consistently, Grandma Joy was there to greet us with a pot of scalloped potatoes. Every single night. And that was a lifesaver. And every time I hang out with that friend, he brings it up. That was the best care from a stranger that he had ever received. And I said, well, that's just my Grandma Joy. She'll be up when you need help, with standing happily with a pot of scalloped potatoes, ready to go. Grandma, we love you, and we will remember you always. Thank you.
One more? Yes, please.
Good morning. I'm Marie. I'm Joy's daughter, the youngest. Out of the three of us, Mark, Beth, and I was the only one who had her as my teacher. And it was sophomore year at Conneaut High School, and I had her for Algebra 2. And at the beginning of the school year, she said, I know that there's a person in this classroom that shares the same last name as me. Just know she's not going to get any kind of extra, support for me or any kind of special treatment for me just because she shares my last name. And there was one perk. I only had one. We had a copy of the student book, math book, at home, so I didn't have to lug the math book home every day to do homework. So that was the only perk I got. And on my 16th birthday, she gave us a test. And to Brian's point, she was always late grading papers. Like, she was the last person putting grades in at the end of the year. But a few days later, she handed it back, and I looked at it, and there is a letter on there I had never seen in my life. It said C in red ink. And I went up to her and I said, Mom, you gave me a C? That was my 16th birthday. Wow. And she said, I didn't give you that C. You earned that C. I'm like, oh, put the knife in deeper, Mom, and twist it. But it was the best lesson that you could learn from your mom, that the effort that you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And so I earned that C. She was absolutely right. Later on, when I did a semester of teaching biochemistry at a college in Illinois, and I told that story to my students, and I followed it up with, and they were laughing, and I followed it up with, and my mom loved me. I don't love you. Just to let them know the effort you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And Mom put effort into everything she did. It might not have been the best organized or best thought out, but she threw herself into everything she did. She truly believed in everything she did. And for that, I thank her. And I thank all of you for being here to celebrate her.
There are going to be days to come when a wave of grief is going to hit you. Days when you're missing your mom or your grandmother, and it's going to feel very heavy, almost tangible. But beloved, let the tears flow. Don't stay there forever. Joy wouldn't want that for you. But instead, on the days when she comes to mind, continue her legacy. Remember her, honor her, and continue doing the things that she did to make this world a better place, because that is how she is going to live on. One of the things that was important to Joy was her faith, and so together we are going to say the Lord's Prayer that Joy would have said here every Sunday. The words will be on screen, if you would join me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. As I was preparing for today, I wanted to remind you that if you want to truly honor her, love the people that come across your path well. Encourage the person that needs the smile or their confidence rebuilt. Go take a walk in nature or lovingly handcraft something for someone else. Take comfort in knowing that she had a tremendous faith despite the challenges she faced. She knew God was with her, and she drew her strength from her faith. Not because following God made the hard stuff go away, because it was easier to face it when she had her faith in him. Take the things that Joy has taught you and put them to good use, and make this world a little bit better because of it. That's how Joy's memory will continue on. If you would pray with me. Holy One, Spirit of love who holds all things together, be near us now. We give thanks for the amazing life of Joy, for the ways she shaped us, for the love she poured into her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and her students and all who knew her well. Hold our hearts steady as we grieve, and help us to remember with gratitude, tenderness, and even laughter. Amen. If you would sing with us one more time.
Now, as we say goodbye to Joy, it's not really goodbye, because we'll see her again, and I know she's looking down on all of you, and she just loves you so much. Sing with me as we sing Shalom to You. Shalom to you now. Shalom. Christ be your shalom. Amen.
I want to let all of you know, I'm Beth, by the way. I'm also have the honor of being Joy's daughter. That the music today was music that she picked out for her funeral. And they're a message. These words are a message to all of us. But right now, I want to speak to Grandma's grandchildren. Hannah, Jiren, Sarah, Sanjay, Brian and Brittany, Scott and Jamie, Matthew and Megan, Chris and Andrew. I do this on behalf of Grandma. You might say that she nudged me from the spirit world to say these things to you. Each of you carries a piece of Grandma's heart. And today is about tending to your own grief, but it's also, as we know, about honoring her life. And we know from her life that life is a paradox. We know ourselves as human. We have flesh and bone. We have memories. We make mistakes. We have a personality. We are a collection of stories. We experience tremendous pain and also triumph. And yet, there's something in us that's harder to name. Something spacious, something aware, something that feels larger than the limited roles that we play in this incarnated body of flesh. Some call it soul, some call it consciousness, some simply call it that part of me that knows deep within. And the truth is that we're both. We are our human story, and we're that light that shines through that story. And we've heard stories today of Grandma's light shining through. And we're in the season of Christmas, and that's what the Christmas story is all about. That love, that essence, that pulse of life, it becomes flesh. It takes on form, and it shows up in ordinary human beings. And in the Gospel of John, it says that this love lives among us. It lives in us. But a lot of times we're asleep to it. We don't recognize it. We miss it when we forget that we are divine embodied love. We miss it when we're asleep to our own inherent goodness and beauty and truth. But when we wake up just for a moment to that deeper, truer part of ourselves, the world begins to shift. The universe feels alive. It's like we're riding on a wave of grace. And through the stories that we're told today, Grandma helped us make that shift, to see that light. So what she would say is the greatest blessing any of us can come to know is that we're not alone. We are a part of something vast and interconnected. And that unfolding of life that doesn't end with the body. We call that God, we call it spirit, we could call it the universe, we could call it the great mystery, we could simply call it love. It goes by many names, it doesn't matter what we call it. And Grandma had faith in that. You could see it in the way she taught her students and how she quietly supported people and organizations to live into their fullness, how she offered comfort and encouragement with a hug, a home-cooked meal, or something that she made. How she was known as Grandma to the staff at her assisted living facility. She lived with a quiet belonging, knowing that we belong to one another and that love is stronger than anything that can separate us. And now she's stepping into that fullness, that place where the only thing that there is love. So I imagine her dancing with the ancestors. I imagine all the ancestors here with us today. That same light shining through that always held her. So here's the important part that I think now she would want to convey to you. None of us has to wait until our final breath to experience the beauty of that belonging. She would say, you know, you're more than the story that you tell about yourself. You're more than your fears. You're more than your mistakes. You're more than the limitations that you think you have. Because you're already whole, you're already good, you're already so loved. And then she'd say, each of you has a role to play in this world. You're not here by accident. You're part of a much larger story, and your life matters more than you will ever realize. And that when you can live from that place, it changes everything. It gives you the freedom to grow and to stretch and to forgive and to show up in ways that even surprise you. And it can free you from thinking that you're a victim to life's tragedies. We grieve, yes. But grief doesn't have the final word. Love does. So, I know you know this, but I need to say it one more time. You are so deeply loved. So deeply loved. So deeply loved. You were loved by Grandma with her whole heart. And you are loved by the larger love that moves through the universe. So I want to invite you to take a moment to remember when you felt that love from Grandma. Remember a moment when you did. Feel that warmth of that love. And not just as a memory, but as a living presence. The living presence that will walk beside you in all the days ahead. So that spirit of Grandma, her resilience, her curiosity, her fierce love, will continue to whisper to you when you remember. You are so dearly loved. You are so held. You belong. And you are more than you will ever know. And remember, she would say, whenever you see a cardinal, I've come to remind you of this. So let us all go in that love and go in that peace, surrounded by the light that never leaves us. Amen.